Hi, welcome to our webinar with Ima Kadima. My name is Shira Eliassian. I'm a program manager at JOFA, the Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance. JOFA is a nonprofit organization that advocates for expanding opportunities for women in Orthodox religious communities, in the workplace, in the religious, political, and family life. Today, we're having a webinar with Naava Shafner, who is a co-founder of Ima Kadima. Hi, Naava.
Hi.
Naava is joining us from Israel, actually, where it's a little bit later in the day. So Ima Kadima is an Israeli-based organization that does similar work to JOFA. They are advocates for career-minded mothers and for creating family-friendly work environments. They have a support network of over 5,000 members, and they're driven by the belief that professional environments are enhanced by having people with families in the workplace. And it just made a lot of sense for us to partner with Ima Kadima to do a webinar, since we're living in a world where it's becoming increasingly difficult to balance work life and family life. And as an organization that's interested in supporting women in pursuing careers, we understand that the consequences that has on family life, and we wanted to talk to Naava to hear what she has to share about some skills and ways that we can continue balancing that. So I'm gonna turn it over to Naava briefly. Again, Naava is one of the co-founders of Ima Kadima, and she's also going to be speaking at our conference that's happening this coming January, January 14th and 15th in New York City. It's a JOFA conference. It's massive. 1,000 people are going to be coming out for it. And Naava, when she comes, is going to be speaking with Yael Rockman about their case that went to the Israeli Supreme Court about not needing state-issued mikveh attendance. And Naava was a lead plaintiff on that case, and Yael Rockman was the lawyer on that case. So, and Naava, you're also going to touch on that a little bit during the webinar as well. Yes?
That's right.
Okay. Amazing.
That's right.
So thank you to everyone who's joined us, and I'll turn it over to Naava now.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and thanks so much to Shira and to everyone at JOFA for partnering with Ima Kadima. I think that JOFA does really important work in the United States, and what we're doing in Israel is different, but also quite important. And the first thing I want to do is kind of really introduce myself and explain how I came to do Ima Kadima and what Ima Kadima is about. So I'm an American Israeli. I made Aliyah when I was 12, meaning that I'm American enough to be polite and Israeli enough to, as I joke, get things done. I grew up here in Israel. I went to Bar Ilan University and got a degree in communications. And political science. And the reason I got a degree in communications and political science was because I used to joke that what I wanted to do was save the world. And I needed to learn a little bit more about the world in order to save it. Basically, ever since I was a little kid, I've really been passionate about trying to make my mark on the world and work to make the world a better place. And what happened was, throughout my life, I really tried to find different causes that I cared about, that I could, work and make some change in. And then after college, I decided to get a job. I went to my first job interview, and the guy, of course, who interviewed me said, "Are you planning on starting a family anytime soon? Because we're looking for serious candidates." And so I didn't get that job. And then I did start a family while working. And it was really difficult for me to, as I say, find my passion, work in a place that I cared about, find something that I really wanted to do. So I was kind of burnt out. I was working the grind, just trying to find something. And then I had my first kid almost 5 years ago. His name is Lavi. He is a very cute little boy. But when I became a mother, that's really when my activist soul came back. I realized that if I wasn't going to do something to change the world for my kids, then the world wouldn't be changed. And the world wouldn't be the kind of world that I want my kids to grow up in. So I thought to myself, what is the one game-changing issue that I could affect change in, and that would really work to make the world a better place? And so I was looking for my causes, and I tried to go to different meetings and volunteer places, but it was really tough because, as many young moms know, you don't really have the time. And so then I went back to the drawing board and I thought, oh, what if we could make a world where mothers and parents could combine their career and their family life in a better way? That would send ripples throughout the world, and that would really make a change. And so that's how I came to Ima Kadima. Ima Kadima actually started as a Facebook group, as a place for mothers who have careers to support each other and to understand that we don't have to have guilt about the fact that we're career-minded mothers. Many people tell us that we do. Many people always, will say to you, you have to, oh no, you work from 9 to 5. When you're at home, you are thinking about work, and when you're at work, you're thinking about home. And really, there's most of the conversation surrounding these issues is a negative conversation about guilt. And at Ima Kadima, we kind of threw the guilt off and said, we don't need it. The classic ideal situation is that, and my co-founder says, when I get up in the morning, I run to work because I love my job. And when I come home, I run home because I love my family. There doesn't need to be a conflict of interest between your work and your family. That concept seems to be a novel one, and many people, when I talk to them about this, are like, huh? But when you work through it, it really ends up being, and when you have the right support, it's not that you don't have challenges, but it's a great perspective and a perspective shift that has really helped me. So that's kind of who I am. I started Ima Kadima almost 3 years ago with 1.5 kids, and now I have 3. So what happened with Ima Kadima? As I said, we started as a support group for moms on Facebook. The challenges of working mothers in Israel are quite different than those in the United States. For example, in Israel, there is a government-mandated maternity leave for 14 weeks paid and 14 weeks unpaid, which is a huge difference, I know. The other difference is that Israel is is a country with not a lot of personal space, and so the boundaries between work and home get blurred a lot. That's the reason why when I went to my first interview, my prospective employer asked me questions about my family, why it happens all the time, even though it's illegal. And the other interesting thing in Israel is that these laws, this legislation that is theoretically supposed to help mothers, ends up hurting families. What do I mean by that? If we want to advance career-minded mothers, then we need to have an equal burden of family life. What do I mean by that? If you ask a mother to work full-time, be a dynamo at her job, be full-time with her children, and be the full-time homemaker, that's just too much for anyone, and anyone will collapse, and no wonder everyone has guilt about that. That's why we advocate for equal parenting, for legislation that helps fathers get rights in the Israeli workplace as well. That's what we do kind of on the outside of things, on the macro, what we work on advocacy and legislation, and that's a lot I'm going to actually be talking about at the JOFA conference. What we do with mothers themselves, how we empower career-minded moms, we do that in 3 ways. Well, in 3 main ways. The first main way is we have a Ima Kadima community forum on Facebook that has over 5,000 women, almost 6,000 if I recall correctly. And we are there for each other. We mentor each other, support each other every day. There are women who have gotten jobs, who have changed careers, who have been empowered to just dream things they would never have thought of and reach for their dreams through this forum. We are at 5,495 members today, which is pretty cool, I would say so myself. And so what we've really done is we've helped many women make their vision a reality. Our virtual community has a few interesting aspects. First of all, we keep it completely on topic. I'm not talking about a regular Facebook group that everyone is a part of that kind of ventures into another mommy group dynamic. We have 2 dedicated moderators who have very strict rules and keep our conversations on topic. One of the best parts of Ima Kadima, of our community forum, is something we call Bragging Wednesday. What's Bragging Wednesday, you ask? Well, there's been a lot of research that shows that women are really lacking in the bragging skill. What do I mean by that? Women lack the skill of taking credit for their actions, being proud of themselves. When a woman and a man do the same thing, do the same task at work, the man will many times get credit because the woman doesn't ask for it. And so in Ima Kadima, we wanted to encourage the skill of women being assertive, of women bragging and being proud of their accomplishments. And so every Wednesday, we encourage the women on the group to brag about a professional, about a work family related accomplishment that they've had this week. And these brags are amazing. They're empowering. They have everything from a woman who is a nanny and is really proud that she stood up for herself and asked her employer to hire her legally, to we have many women on the group who are entrepreneurs and make unbelievable discoveries and business deals as well. These kinds of brags have really changed women's lives. People start their first brag with, "This is my first brag, and I don't know if this is brag worthy, but," and everyone gets love, gets support, gets encouragement, and learns from each other how to do that. And of course, we don't only brag on Wednesdays. Every day is a bragging day. The idea of solidarity between women is a big piece as well. A lot of times, people talk about the fact that being the only woman in the boardroom is no longer what our goal is. It used to be that in order to break the glass ceiling, you would be the only one breaking it. And of course, it was very, very difficult. That being said, if women help each other and give each other a leg up, that's what will really break and shatter all of the glass ceilings that we see and talk about. And so at Ima Kadima, that's what we do. We work to help each other and keep it very, very positive while still helping each other kind of get a leg up. So we talked a little bit, as I said, about our Ima Kadima Forum, what we do about empowering women. The other thing that of course comes with a group of over 5,000 women is networking. We're a huge, huge resource for all sorts of things. There has been, at my last count, 5 companies that have started and really gotten off the ground from people who networked and met through Ima Kadima. There is, as I said, countless job opportunities. Our job posting rules are very clear that it has to be someone who the person who is hiring has to post. So it's not just another job board. It's really something where people connect and find each other. Now, one of the best parts of Ima Kadima is taking it offline. 5,000 women in a forum is great. Everybody goes on Facebook all the time. We feel like we know each other. We're a really great community. But what happens next? So what we've done is we have bi-monthly events where we do skill building workshops, either on something about confidence building or sometimes on niche businesses that we feel our community really needs. We've had how to start a business. We've had imposter syndrome. What is that? We've had a few research motivated events where we learn about the situation of working mothers in Israel. That's the offline events that we do, and we also have at least once a year a conference where we get our whole community together. We network together. We really get support from each other and empower each other. The other thing that Ima Kadima does is advocacy. I touched on it a little bit, but basically what we do is we're working with different governmental entities to try and encourage family-friendly legislation. We're working with Knesset members, with parliament members. We're working with municipalities to really try and encourage women to, try and encourage the government to see women and to see working mothers and working parents as a resource rather than as a problem in the workplace. So that's kind of the basic idea of what Ima Kadima does. And as I said, it's a little bit, we talk about a little bit of a different challenges and different issues than there is in the United States. That being said, there are some really interesting concepts that I want to talk about today that I think everyone could benefit from. The first, as I said, is positivity and changing your perspective, and even more so, changing your language. Positivity. Like I said before, when you're positive about something and when you work and when you think about your life and being a career-minded mother in a positive way, that makes a huge shift. We talk a lot about what's the difference between a career-minded mother and a working mother. So career-minded, a working mother is a mother who works because she has to. She works, she gets her paycheck at the end of the day, she goes home, she does what she considers her real job, which you'll never hear me say is not a job. It's a huge job, being a mother. And that's it. And Ima Kadima helps many working mothers. But what's a career-minded mother? A career-minded mother is someone who goes to work because she also wants to. She also wants to do something that she cares about, that she can make a mark on something. Now, you don't hear me saying that a career-minded mother is someone who works full-time and a working mom is someone who is mommy tracked or whatnot. Everyone gets to choose for themselves what success, what career-minded, how they're going to define their family life. So I know many career-minded moms who work part-time, and I know many working moms who work full-time. When you change your perspective and you decide, I want a career, and I want to think about things in terms of a career, and you shift your perspective in that way, that is something that will make a huge difference and will further your career once you've considered it a career. What do I mean by that? I know that many women who I've spoken to say, oh yes, this was my first job and this is my second job, but I don't really have a career. I just go from job to job to job to job to job. Once you consider yourself on having a career and plan and map out for yourself a career path, that is tip number one to finding a fulfilling career. Map it out. Look for opportunities in a certain way. Of course, grow with it and find different ways to advance your career that you hadn't always thought of. But thinking of yourself as a career-minded mother versus a working mother is the first huge perspective shift that I wanted to talk about. The second perspective shift is about mother-friendly hours. In Israel, we talk a lot about this. When people are looking for jobs, they look for mommy-friendly hours. They look for, can I pick my kids up at the end of the day? And can I work in a flexible way? All of those things. And when they call it mommy-friendly hours, they're basically anchoring the idea that that's only mommies do that. And I know that in the United States, there's been a lot of progress about family-friendly workplaces and talking about things in that way, and talking about parental leave rather than maternity leave, and talking about family-friendly hours rather than mother-friendly hours. That's something in Israel that we're still working really hard on. Just an example, when another interview I was at, someone asked me when I was planning on going on maternity leave. And it was a job that, thank God, I didn't really want, because someone who was just going to ask me in the interview about when I was planning on going on maternity leave as if that's when they were going to hire me was clearly not someone I wanted to be dealing with. So I turned it around on them and I said, if I was a man, would you be asking me when I'm planning on having more children? And he got all flustered and he said, that's not what I meant. I meant if you went, if you left for a few months and I want to know. And I said, I understand, but what about men in Israel who do reserve duty? In Israel, men do reserve duty until middle age. And so what would you have asked me if I do reserve duty if I was going to leave for a month every single year? So the guy was a little bit, a little bit taken aback and apologized. And as I said, I didn't get that job. But that's the kind of things that happen in Israel. A lot in interviews, but a lot in the workplace as well. When I came back to the first workplace I did after I was on maternity leave, everyone was sure that I was going to be different, that I wasn't going to be dedicated to my job, that now that I had this big burden on my head, at home, that I was going to be a different employee. And funny enough, in some ways they were right. I was different. I wasn't always standing by the coffee station, chilling before I went and sat and ate my lunch for an hour because I had to leave at 3 o'clock. And so I was clearly going to get my work done. I learned how to prioritize better. I learned so many things from being a mom. I joke a lot about the fact that having kids made me a top-notch negotiator. There are a lot of skills that mothers have that mothers get from being mothers that are great in the workplace as well. That's why, as Shira made our introduction, that's why Ima Kadima believes that workplaces are emboldened by mothers. And that's why we try and encourage workplaces to hire mothers, because it's actually a win-win for everybody. I want to answer a few questions that were given before we started this webinar. But first, I just want to talk about one more thing. I wanted to talk about, sorry, excuse me. I really want to talk about a little more about family parenting and an equal parenting, and mothers vis-a-vis workplaces in that way. I think that something that's really, really important is when we choose for ourselves how we define our success, we need to have this as a conversation family-wide. When we're talking with our significant other or with whatever family support system we have, we really need to make sure that everyone is a part of the conversation. That being said, the next question, the question that someone asked, which is a huge question for also single parents and also a lot of people in Israel who don't have family around, and people in the United States who also move to a place and don't have always a family support system, is dealing with childcare when you don't have that backup and when you don't have that support. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about the employer side of things and about how we can go into work and not only at home talk about being a career-minded mother, but at work, how we can balance these things. So when talking, when you think about that, we really need to work on women having a assertive and good support system, whether it's at work or at home. And if you don't have that support system, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with, a good employer or something like that, it can be really difficult. And that's one of the things that Ima Kadima has become for so many women in Israel. So we at Ima Kadima, we're trying to help women who don't have a support system, also through legislation that helps career-minded parents, and also through working with employers to explain what great resources mothers can be. We are one of our long-term goals is to have a family-friendly workplace seal that employers who will understand what being a family-friendly workplace entails and champion those rights will be able to get the family-friendly seal. And I've talked to also many employers. We have a great partnership with large companies in Jerusalem and all over the country to work with employers to help mothers get their flexibility and yet get the most out of get the most out of their employees, because we all know that happy employees will make happy employers. And when you care about someone's life holistically, not only their work product, but also their life, they're going to be happier employees. And in the long term, that's just a better idea. And so, I'm sorry, I'm just reading these questions here. Someone wanted to know about how to deal with the childcare situation in Israel. August vacation, chagim, sick days, etc., without the backup of grandparents. So I'll just do a little explanation here. In Israel, children have 92 vacation days a year, and parents have 10. I'm going to repeat that again. School has 92 vacation days a year, and parents have 10. And especially when you're talking about younger children and babies, that becomes a huge issue. And in Israel, the usual refrain heard from your boss is, okay, so call the grandparents, or okay, so, call the siblings. Many people in Israel are kind of living in a constant cycle of who's going to pick up the child today, whether it's the grandparents or the other friends or all sorts of things. And it's a really good question about what happens when there is nothing like that. So one of the things that also happens in Israel is that there is a special allowance for nursing mothers called the nursing hour, Sha'at Harut, which in the first year of a parent's life, of a child's life, a mother can work 1 hour less. One of the things that Ima Kadima has been instrumental in is getting these getting this hour to be for fathers as well. And so that's also helped fathers be a big part of the scenario. The truth is, it's a really big challenge. What we've really decided to concentrate on is working with legislators to help get more vacation days on the employer side of things, as in it used to be that we had 10 vacation days a year, and we just passed a law. We just helped pass a law which will come into fruition in July, that will have 12 vacation days a year, which helps a little bit. There are camps, there's babysitting services, but it's a really big challenge, and that's one of the biggest challenges of parenthood and family life and working in Israel. The other question was a really great question about a couple finding a balance and time for themselves, and careers that have a really high tension dynamic. How does that work with the career-minded, with a parenting lifestyle and with family life? So finding time for yourselves is really important. Finding time to go out with your husband, or to even go out for, my husband and I try and take a walk around the block once a week. But that these kinds of things that keep you sane and that help you with your high tension work are always really important, and it's always difficult to fit in, but it also ends up being a priority list. What I do is I write a priority list. I write literally a list of all of my priorities, both at home and at work, and then all the things that are on my lowest on my priority list, the bottom 5 things get moved. If they're not on high priority, I don't need to do them. Just an example, my kids during the week get the exact same food every single week. Sunday night is leftovers, Monday night's a big omelet, Tuesday night is pasta, Wednesday night is tacos, and Thursday night is leftovers. And that's what it is. We have minimized the preparation. We know exactly what happens when, and those kinds of things, the planning before, and the fact that clearly one of the lower thing on my priorities list is giving my kids a varied diet. That's got to go. Something sometimes has got to go. And so I made my priority list for myself, and everybody has to make priority lists for them. Now, something that really helped me was actually a post on the Ima Kadima group that I want to talk about a little bit. Someone asked a few weeks ago. They said, "When will I stop feeling like I fail at everything I do?" In our career-minded parenthood, and in general, in our careers and in our lives, I so many times feel like I'm just running on a treadmill. As much as I talk about positivity, and that's key, and that's so important, it many times feels like you're running on a treadmill. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about tips that people have given in the group for how to help with running on that treadmill, how to help with seeing yourself as successful and shifting your own perspective. Now, as I said, we talk about that a lot in Ima Kadima, and we someone came up with a really great list that helped all of these things, all of these feelings and all of these challenges, and that really helped me, and I wanted to share with you guys. So it goes from taking time for yourself, which is really important. It's really important to carve out, even if it's 5 minutes, for yourself to think about, to write, to watch something, to relax. That's a really important part of keeping your sanity. Make a list of everything you have accomplished. Volunteer. Make a list of small goals you'd like to accomplish each day. Tick them off as you go. Figure out what inspires you and just do it. Make the time to be with friends who make you feel good about yourself. Eat lunch with a friend. Eliminate the word should from your vocabulary. That's an important one. I have many times found myself saying, I should stay up an extra hour and work. I should go running all the time, and make myself feel a little bit guilty about that. But if you eliminate the word should, that helps you with your priority list. Take a walk, use the gym, exercise. There are a lot of things here that will help kind of people who help people feel successful. Keep a document of positive feedback that you've received over time and give positive feedback. Forgive yourself the way you would forgive others. Think of the things you are appreciative of. Gratitude always helps. Reflect on how far you've come over a period of time. Help others. Try something new. Think positive thoughts. Listen to stand-up comedy. Write down a list of your skills. Keep a journal. Go on an adventure. Remember that sometimes good enough is fine. Clean up the mess. So these are just a few of the kind of piece of practical advice that people give in Ima Kadima, that people work on helping others and shifting the perspective within yourself about how you feel, and knowing that that's really what's going to change everything else. I know that when I changed my perspective, my life for sure changed. The last thing I wanted to do was read to you something that I felt was really important to me as an Ima Kadima. Something that I felt really empowered me. And one of the Ima Kadima group members wrote this as our mantra. So I'd like to share it with you all tonight. It says like this: I am a mother, I am a wife. I am hardworking, I am dedicated, I am devoted, I am creative. I am. I have children, I have one children, I have two children, I have many children. I am tired, I am running late, I am on my second cup of coffee before 8 a.m. I am organized, I am wearing 2 different shoes. I'm working in an office, I'm working from home. I'm working full-time, I'm working part-time, I'm working freelance. I have one job, I have many jobs, I have no job. I work US hours, I work Israeli hours. I am busy, I am stressed. I'm always moving, I'm always thinking, I'm always doing. I'm always tired. I hear that I'm a supermom. I hear that I'm incredible. I hear that. I get asked, how do you manage to do it all? I get asked, but don't you miss your kids? I get asked, don't you want more kids? I get asked, when will you go back to work? I get asked, why can't you stay late today? I get asked, when will you make up the hours? I hear that too. I'm told I can't have it all. I'm told I'm not good enough. I'm told to go home. I'm told I need protection. I'm told I need to relax. I'm told eventually. I'm told to try. I'm told to try harder. I'm told it's not enough. I'm told this is not for me. I'm told many contradicting things. I wonder if they are right. I wonder if it's worth it. The sleepless nights, the stress, the exhaustion, the fights, the weariness. I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. I wonder if I should stop. But I am battle tested. I am fire. I am iron. I am a burning bush that will not be consumed. I will not be consumed. I will not bow. I will not break. I will not give up or give in or lean back. I will not throw away my shot. I will fight. I will move onward and upward. I will continue and I will win. Although I am tired, I am tireless. I am the power of sheer will. I am confident. I am courage. I am strength. I am that. I am Ima Kadima. That's kind of, for me, really inspired me about what we've been doing with Ima Kadima, empowering a lot of women to feel inspired and to feel like they can do it. And so what I want to tell you tonight to anyone who's watching is that you can do it too. Take a few of the tips that I gave tonight, practical tips, kind of conceptual tips about changing your mind, and that way changing your actions and changing your behavior. And talk to other people. The conversation is important. The conversation makes us less lonely. I know when I first became a mom, I thought I was the only one going through it. I never understood that everyone who is a mother goes through this, goes to work and stresses because they're not sure that their kid is in the right place, or gets to work and is excited because they have great work to do, and then their colleagues will say to them, well, you know, why aren't you at home taking care of your kids? The experiences that I've had and the group that I've helped create and the community that we foster at Ima Kadima has made a huge difference to women and helped them overcome a lot of these obstacles, overcome a lot of these challenges, and doing it together. And if I want anyone to take something away from tonight, it's that together, solidarity with women, women helping other women, that's really the way we're going to shatter the glass ceiling. That's really the way that together we will make a better future for our kids. And so when my kids are grown up, my daughter will be able to have a successful, fulfilling career. My son will be able to leave work early to go take care of his kids. And no one will bat an eyelash when I go to an interview and say, hi, I'm a mom of however many kids, and I want to have a career. And no one will ask me if I'm serious. So if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer. Or Shira, back to you.
Hi, I'm still here. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And that was like a really moving piece, the mantra that group member wrote. I had a couple of follow-up questions for you that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
This is going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the webinar, but something you said that I really liked and I identified with was I think you called it, bragging moments that your group has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I hear a lot when people are talking about advancing women in the professional world, at least here, is that it's really important for women to talk about themselves and talk themselves up. That for a lot of women, what we're so used to, we go to work and we're so focused on doing our work, but a lot of what you need to do, if you're looking for that, for a raise, if you're looking for a promotion, people need to hear the good work that you're doing. And part of it is, like you're saying, so much of it is we need to recognize ourselves, how much we're accomplishing. But we also need to let other people hear the work that we're doing. And in particular, I heard this from somebody who works in finance, but she was saying that in the finance world, so much it's about you just need to schmooze with people. You need to walk out of your cubicle and you need to talk to other people. What?
It's the politics of things.
Yeah, that you need to walk out of your cubicle and you need to learn how to talk up the things that you've done. And part of it is about for yourself to recognize, to build that confidence and to recognize that it's not, I'm not always failing. I am doing things and I'm doing things well. And part of it is learning, even though we might not consider that modest or tsanua, it's part of advancing yourself as a professional. You need to be able to talk up your accomplishments and talk it up to the people who it matters with.
Right. It's actually really interesting. You bring the Sanua thing into it. Though Ima Kadima is completely nonpartisan and not and has no specific. It's not specifically for religious women or secular women. We have people from all from the entire spectrum of Jewish Israeli society. Um, that being that being said, it was really difficult when we started with the bragging Wednesday. First of all, many women said, "Don't call it bragging. That makes me
Yeah.
feel not sanua. That makes me feel like I'm being obnoxious or like I'm being aggressive." And we said, that's the point. We're not saying be aggressive or be obnoxious, but what you need to do in order to get yourself out of the entrenched idea that women shouldn't talk about their accomplishments is you need to brag, you need to shout it out. And I think it's really helped because a lot of women from these kinds of empowering brags, reading other people's brags, people commenting on your brags and encouraging you, have really been empowered to go and do these things and go and ask for a raise and go and um, volunteer for that project or go and tell your boss that no, I can't do that project because I have other commitments, but I'm still good at my job and not to be, as they say in Hebrew, a flyer, not to kind of be a pushover. I think it's really interesting that you, as I said, bring in that modesty part of the conversation because it's been like a tough road. But I will tell you that the bragging piece of things has really helped women go from when in the beginning of the group, people, thought of, oh, okay, a Facebook group about our career, asked questions like, how can I get a job that will not fire me because I'm a mom and will be semi-flexible? And that was kind of what they're asking about. To now, people are empowered and say, help me negotiate from a place
Yeah.
of, I know that I'm good enough and I know what I'm doing, a raise or find a job that's good for me and good for my talents.
Yeah.
And the shift in dialogue is really interesting, and I think it has a lot to do with the leaving aside the modesty piece of things.
Right. So much of the work is about the women who already have those careers. We've in some ways the generation that came before us, or the current generation, has really made way and made space for women to be in the working world. And now the challenge is women who are there need to be making those careers more accessible for women, and make
Right,
them more
definitely.
accessible for mothers. That we need to be doing the work of, when we're there, negotiating and pushing and doing things that might feel out of our comfort zone, if we want to make those make a world where, like you said, when your daughter grows up, she doesn't need to reconsider whether or not she should be pursuing a certain type of career, because will it make it possible for her to have a family as well.
And I'll tell you something else. I speak to a lot of employers. I'm quite active in the Jerusalem tech and startup scene and social businesses and such. And I've had employers come to me who've said, I was really hesitant about hiring mothers, especially in Israel, something I don't know if I touched upon, but especially religious women who have a stereotype of having lots of kids. In Israel, the birth rate is the highest in the developed world. So I'm talking about by far. The average is 1.2, and we're at 3.1, and that's without Arabs and Haredim. So we're the highest birth rate in the developed world, and we leave. So there's a balance, and I understand why employers theoretically would be biased even without trying, even subliminally, even subconsciously, and say, oh, here's a woman with a hair covering. She's going to have a kid every year. Do I really want to hire her? And so I spoke to an employer came over to me and said, you know, you encouraged me to hire that woman who was a religious mom, a religious woman. And even if she wasn't a mom yet, she was a religious woman. And thank you, because she was great. And yeah, it happened to be that the next year she went out on maternity leave, but still she's a great worker and she was so worth it. And ever since, I've hired 3 more moms.
Wow.
So there is, it is possible to change the situation and to change perspective one person at a time.
Yeah. That leads me to, that was I think maybe a question we can end on, because we're closing up soon. But I really liked what you said at one point, that I mean, when I introduced you, I mentioned this, that you guys are driven by the belief that having mothers in the workforce is actually very, like, is a positive thing for the workforce. But you said that being a mother has made you a bolder negotiator. I was wondering if you could talk to maybe a couple of other points like that, things that being a parent, how that is, gives you a good, or another thing you mentioned is that you've learned from being a mother, you've learned how to prioritize and know what types of.
I always say, actually, that it's true. Being a career-minded mom makes me a better mom, and being a career-minded mom makes me a better professional.
Yeah.
Not only that, there was actually a study done, I think it was in a St. Louis bank, and they charted people over 10 years about productivity in the workplace. And now, moms who are listening here won't be surprised, but most other people will be, that not only were mothers more productive, not only were women more productive than men, and not only were, interestingly enough, mothers more productive than women who were not mothers. The more children mothers had, the more they were productive at work.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Because when you are running or jointly running a household, there are all sorts of skills you get. So like I said, I've learned to prioritize. I've learned to negotiate. I've learned to adapt. I've learned to adapt to all sorts of situations.
Yeah.
When before I was a mom, I thought I was adaptable and I could, like go with the flow a little bit, but you learn to take things a lot easier and a lot like kind of brush things off your back. At least for me, that's what has helped. And I will also say that when I come home to my kids after a full day of work, and that was a good day at work, I feel like I'm a better mom. When I was a stay-at-home mom for the first few months of my kid's life, I was not happy. And I'm happier when I have adults to speak to and when I'm doing something I care about. Um, I joke that I'm a better part-time mom. I know that my kids, I'm very happy that I have great childcare with people that I know care about my children and know how to stimulate them. And I'm really proud of the fact that I know what's good for me and I know what's good for my family. And again, that's not what's good for everyone and it's not what's good for everyone's family. But as a mom, I am more present with my children. I am more compassionate towards my children when I'm happy in my career.
Yeah.
And so on both sides of the spectrum, also on the side of my career, I feel like I've become more successful now that I have the responsibilities of motherhood and that I'm working for my kids too. I'm not just working to make my paycheck at the end of the month. I'm working to make my difference. I'm also working for my kids and to provide for them. And like I said, all of the different actual skills that are helped along as a mom. And as a mother, I feel much better about it.
And it seems like those are the kinds of things that we should also be, be advocating for ourselves. When you're in an interview and somebody asks you a question like, "Are you serious about this?" Like you said, like, "Are you serious about your career?" You say, "Well, yeah." And in fact, because I'm a parent, these are like all the things you listed sound like things that we should be saying, not as like a chisronot, like weaknesses that we have going into a career, but those are strengths that we can offer. That I know what it's like to be in a really stressful situation, to have two kids that are sick and one that's throwing up, or to need to have dinner on the table and helping kids with homework and taking a call from work. That's great. I think that's such an important perspective that I haven't heard before, and I don't think we talk about it in that way. We talk about how it's difficult and you're straining yourself, but we don't talk about how balancing work and parenthood actually helps you do both better in some ways.
Exactly.
That's really great. Okay, wonderful. So thank you again so much for joining us for this webinar.
And I'm excited to see you all next month.
Yes. Again, if you're not registered for the JOFA conference yet, you should be, because we're going to be having these conversations and so many more important ones. It's happening January 14th and 15th in New York. For more information, you can visit our website, jofa.org/conference 2017, or you can follow us on Facebook. We have a very active Facebook page. And if you'd like, you can get in touch with Naava about joining Ima Kadima's Facebook page.
Yep, and in Ima Kadima, you can search Ima Kadima on Facebook, and we're an Israel-focused group, but everyone is welcome to join as long as it remains relevant to career-minded parenthood in Israel. I'll see you all at the JOFA conference, and in true Ima Kadima fashion, you'll get to meet my baby too.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.